Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shining a Spotlight during this Women's Month on behalf of the Albert Luthuli Leadership Institute. Here at ALLI, we pride ourselves on reimagining leadership, leadership in context, leadership in development, and leadership in accountability. And we have an individual who prides herself in all of those as well. Seated with me today is Dr. Tumeka. She is a CA, a mom, and now a UP PhD graduate from the leadership, a UP PhD graduate in leadership from the Albert Luthuli Leadership Institute. It's such a mouthful because it's so impressive. It's so lovely to have you here, Dr. Tumeka. I am honored and humbled to be chatting with you.
No, thanks very much, Alma. Thanks for the invitation to do the interview as well.
Awesome. So the first question that we want to chat about during this Women's Month is, what is the story of Dr. Tumeka? Tell us a little bit about your background and how it influenced you becoming the woman that you are today.
So I grew up as the firstborn and only daughter in a family of 3 kids. I grew up in a family of very proud people, people who value their heritage, both from my maternal and paternal side. So as a result, I myself am someone who's very proud of not just the person that I am, but the persons from whom I come. I truly believe that I am, the woman that I am today because of my ancestry and my family. My grandparents loved and valued education, and they instilled the same in my parents, who in turn instilled the same in me. And I've been affirmed all my life, taught to believe in myself and my capabilities, and that's really assisted me greatly in going for anything that I want, striving to attain any goal that I set my heart or mind to. Doesn't mean I always succeed, but it means that I know I don't write myself off. I approach my goals with a mindset that it is possible. And I don't define myself by either my successes or my failures. I'm just Tumeka, who goes hard for what she wants. And if she gets it, great. And well, if she doesn't, there's another shot or next time, or move on. So yeah, that's pretty much the story of me, I guess.
Awesome. I love how you pay respects and homage to your lineage and how you speak about women who have come before you and how they have played a role in the woman you are today. And we're going to talk about that just very, very soon. But the next question that I want to ask is, we are in Women's Month. And Women's Month is one of those times where we always find people being divided. You've got one side that wants to celebrate Women's Month for how far we've come, and you've got the other side that says we really haven't come far enough and there's nothing to be celebrating. So what is Women's Month to you?
Women's Month for me is not too positive, I guess, if I can say that. Kind of reminds me of how little regard there actually is for women, women's health, women's rights, women's safety, everything. I just feel like I don't see enough all year round effort to be inclusive of women, to acknowledge and to do something about our plight for safety and security in our own country, to recognize us as human beings who are actually worthy and not some sort of second-class citizen. I get a bit uncomfortable about how our strength and resilience, or sometimes I'll call it mbokoduism, is spoken about, you know, almost as though our worth is measured by how much suffering we can endure, you know, as opposed to us just being people. So I want to challenge us as a society to go beyond Women's Day, beyond Women's Month, where all year round we actually focus our energy on providing safety, real access and equity to women, professionally and socially, just in life in general.
That's a concept that I and a lot of young women, especially Black women, can relate to, this idea of the strong Black woman who can withstand anything and everything. All the pain and struggles that are shoved towards her, we're supposed to take it and sort of fight through it, and we're constantly fighting. And I'm glad it's a concept that we're starting to unpack and realize that it's actually quite toxic. And speaking about toxic concepts, you, for example, are referred to as the first in many things, you know, the first PhD graduate in leadership, and only a few Black women own their own auditing and accounting firms, and the list goes on of everything that you can say you've been termed the first at. How does that make you feel, being the first?
So I think firstly, not the first PhD graduate in leadership. What I heard was the first Black woman at UP for PhD in leadership. You know, that being said, it's not something I've ever focused on, you know, being the first or one of few in anything. I think with regards to the PhD in particular, I just think not that many people are interested in reading for a PhD, and not everyone who is interested in the same field. So for me, you know, I happened to choose a field, and you know, and I did it at UP, and it so happened that according to their records of stats, you know, this is the result. And you know, when it comes to my profession as well, you know, as you mentioned around you know, the firm and stuff, I think for me, I find it disappointing when I think about the fact that we're in 2021. I really have not done anything super specialized, either, you know, by the PhD or being a chartered accountant and registered auditor in practice. Because I mean, also the professions of accounting and auditing have existed for quite some time now. So I think the fact that we still today are counting the number of Black women and this and that in these areas is actually a sign for me that the system is not working with regards to opportunities and access, you know, and people making it through to the end of any of these things. Well, it's not working for us anyway. Let me say that, and maybe it's clearly working according to its origins, its roots, which were exclusionary on the basis of race and gender. So for me, you know, it's not. I mean, just for example, when I found out that, oh, apparently you know, you're the first Black PhD. It's actually even long. I kind of forget it, but. I think something at the back of my head rang and said, "Ooh, is that not an indictment on the institution, you know, and the country? Perhaps we need to take a step back and think, what does this actually mean, you know?" But for the institution, and like I said, for the country in a broader space, that we have to be looking at these things. But for me personally, yeah, not a badge that I would wear, you know. I kind of just think, as I said to you at the start, I just do what I want, my goal. So I had not researched, for example, how many Black people are in the field. Even becoming a chartered accountant, actually wasn't aware that there were so few at the time anyway, when I was doing it. It just, didn't occur to me.
I hear you 100%. And I think what the great thing that comes out of it is that people are able to see excuse me, that there is a program, there is this leadership PhD program that has been done before by the Dr. Tumeka, which means I, as a young Black woman myself, can apply to a program like that. But the concept of the first, I always say, is yes, be the first, but make sure you're not the last. And I feel like we've got a similar understanding in regards to that. So that's great. Next question. You are a mother, a wife, a worker, a PhD holder, and so much more. You're the true definition of what they call someone who can do it all, right? So how do you do it all?
I don't know. If I do it, yeah, I do it all for myself, as in the all that, that I want to do.
Yeah.
I think we probably can't do the whole world. If I could tell you the other things, Elma, that I'd love to do, you'd probably think I'm crazy. I've got a long list, and some of which I said, okay, maybe it's for the next life, not this one. But in terms of what I do now, all the sort of, if we can say, the different roles and components of me and my life, it's community. And by community, I mean, firstly, the community in my house, in my household, made up of my spouse and my children, lots of support there. And, I suppose prior to that, and obviously still existing from home, family wise, people who can pick up where I drop, because, I think all of us were always juggling so many things, because we aren't one thing in our lives. We are many things. We are friends, we are, partners, we are colleagues, we are a lot of things. So sometimes you might drop one or more, and if there are people there to kind of help you with that load or pick up, it helps a lot. So I've grown up in a community. I've continued to have a community in my life, like I said, my household, my broader circles, my friends, my family. So that helps me, I think, all the time to manage the different spaces that I occupy, the different roles that I play in my life and other people's lives.
I agree with you 100%. The importance of having a community support structure is something that we really need to work on, not just as women, but as an African community. I think Africa is founded on the principles of community, Ubuntu, and the rest. And the more we focus on that, the more we will all be able to shine. So I agree with you in that regard. Next up, so you own an accounting firm, if I'm not mistaken, where you are in charge, and I'm sure you've worked with men as subordinates, men who have worked below you, and you being a woman in a position of authority. For some people, it's a concept that they can't even imagine, even though it is 2021, but it's your everyday life. So tell us, have you faced some significant struggles? How is it being this woman in a position of authority?
Look, it probably is or can be difficult. Sometimes when you're a particular grouping or demographic, so for example, a Black woman, some things you're just conditioned to, unfortunately, because of society. They come at you every day from a very young age, and you're constantly navigating those things. So I've gotten to the point where I think sometimes I don't even notice. So if men or whoever else are having an issue being led by me, or with me being in a position of authority, I leave it as their problem. It's not mine. I kind of have to carry on, because I didn't create the problem, and it's coming from you. I'm just doing me, and so oftentimes because sometimes I'll be like, is this person being like this because this is my exterior, or are they just like this because they are? And I eventually say, but it doesn't matter. End of the day, I still need to do what I need to do. I need to get my outcome. So keep it moving. Yeah.
I love that. It's not your problem, so you shouldn't have to deal with it. That's really great advice. Let's talk a little bit about the Albert Luthuli Leadership Institute. How did you become involved with ALLI, and how has it played a role in your journey?
So my introduction to ALLI was through a very good friend of mine who happened to be at the university when I was embarking on my PhD journey, which involved me researching where can I do it, what can I do, etc. And she introduced me to Derek, obviously the director at the school. And I discussed with him, my goal to pursue a PhD. And fortunately for me, he, I guess, recognized in me what I saw myself, the ability, the commitment, the diligence that I had to not only start the journey, but also complete it. So he took me on, and it was a hard journey, but great, very rewarding, and hard but not unpleasant. I don't know if that makes sense. So obviously things that are hard are not necessarily pleasant, but what I'm saying is I didn't feel like it was any harder than it needed to be. So the institute, the way it works, it just, for me, it kind of blew my mind in terms of how I had to start thinking. I mean, when I look back at my notes, which I still have, and look at the initial notes I made around what I want to study and my initial documents and presentations and where I actually ended up and how that evolution came about, it's quite amazing. And I remember Derek and Willem being my co-supervisor, used to always say, trust the process, trust the process. I'd be like, I can't trust this process. I just want things to go, the way I'm trained, in my profession, things kind of go a certain way. And this was like, no, you've got to, start here before. So, the institute for me, I think obviously also the way it works, being maybe a little bit separate outside of a big department, being its own mini department, if I can call it that, as an institute, was nice. You felt collaboration, you kind of, there are people there that I was just talking to, through the journey. So it was good.
Yeah. Dr. Tumeka, a lot of people would say that you have accomplished enough. They would say that you've done the most. In fact, if I could put it like that. But after just speaking to you for a few minutes, I can see that you're an overachiever and there's still more that you would like to do. So if we were to say that, where do you see yourself in 5 years, considering how much you've already done? Is there anything in particular that you think to yourself, in 5 years, this is one thing that I haven't done yet that I would love to do?
I have big aspirations of actually continuing to work with the Institute, in fact, publishing and, growing in, in a scholarly manner and academically. And I don't know if necessarily in 5 years, I haven't set time limits because I'm like, you know what, when things happen, they happen, just work for it. But I definitely know I'd like to be a professor. And I know that, obviously I need then to pick up a lot on my scholarly activities. So that is something that whether or not it's achieved within 5 years, definitely I am going to be focusing on it within these 5 years that are coming.
That's awesome to hear. I look forward to interviewing you as Prof. Tumeka. I'll even, I'll learn some intellectual words to use as well during the interview, just because when you talk to academics, there's a certain jargon that you need to use. So the last question for today is, what advice would you give to young women with big dreams but tainted confidence?
For me, the biggest thing is that your voice is the loudest and most consistent in your life. So make sure it's positive. You are the only person who can talk yourself out of going for what you want. So don't do that. Yes, look, it doesn't mean you'll always succeed, but at least give yourself a chance. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with failure. Just don't not do something because you're waiting for somebody else to tell you that you can do it. Because look, that might never happen. So those external voices might never come. That those cheerleaders might never come. You are it. You talk to yourself every day, all the time. So say good things to yourself, motivate yourself, tell yourself you are great. We are all great in whatever way. So just, it's not always easy, but don't berate yourself. You are your cheerleader. Your voice is there all the time. Make it positive for yourself.
Absolutely. Phenomenal. You are your own cheerleader, so make sure your voice is positive. Thank you so much, Dr. Tumeka. It's been great talking to you. I was really looking forward to it. And you have obviously surpassed my expectations. And ALLI looks forward to working with you in the future and just really watching you thrive. It's just so amazing to watch as a young Black woman myself. It's great to see. So you are an inspiration and we appreciate you for being here. Thank you.
No, great. Thanks very much.